I'm hitting
So,
record, just so
okay.
you know.
So this
But
epidemic of narcissism, that we can't really say because the label is way overused and not fully understood, and there is no
Hmm.
diagnostic. So the Watiko is the concept of this social mind virus, starting with the shadow self. I may have spoken about this group before, but I've spoken on every presentation I give lately to Indigenous or not. Even when I went to New Zealand, I was speaking about this as being the recognition of this prophecy, and that it is a time for this, as we think of it, as a spiritual or energetic war. It really is. The shadow self has been um, ignored slash pushed away, villainized, but never not met with. And this is when we get into the psychedelics. This is what often happens is we meet with that shadow self and then put it to um, amends so that it doesn't become the energy that is now consuming the planet. And it seems as though whatever has been taken over, this negative energy, and it manifests in addictions, and it manifests in so many ways
Yes.
of the soul trying to fill itself, that that state of voraciousness. So I've changed the name in my work from narcissism to the concept of the dragon, and I use Saint George and the dragon as a metaphor, and using the fact that the dragon is empty, they continually trying to fill, and endless supply is required, just the way it is with narcissism. And so, how do we deal with that? And through compassion, understanding, and boundaries. So,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
It's
I'll
going to be,
stop
Big
blathering.
topic.
Yeah,
yeah,
I could go
it's a,
on and on. Anyway, thanks for letting me share that.
Of course.
I was going to say the issue you strike with a narcissist is they don't recognize any boundaries. You put a boundary in place and they'll get round it because, like a lot of people that leave those relations, actually have to leave the area
mm,
because there'll be stalking behavior, they'll be very obsessive about many things, and they'll continue to try and destroy either your life, well, your life really, your job, anything and everything like that.
mm-hmm.
Most people I know getting out of those relationships, it can be a multi-year process unless you can just up stakes and shift to somewhere they have no clue, but they will try. Most of them know how to ring authorities to get private information. I have seen crazy, crazy stuff with people
Wow.
leaving those sort of relationships. In New Zealand, we're lucky we've got Women's Refuge, it's called. They'll actually help women that are in situations like this. Like you ring them, they'll come pick you up, they'll do what they need to. They don't take shit. And they'll help women move town. They'll just get them out of town into some, you know, place that they aren't known. That can
Wow.
be shifting between islands if necessary. Um, yeah, but I've worked with quite a few people who've had narcissistic partners, very obsessive, very controlling, very destructive,
Hmm.
and they have ways of finding people anywhere. They're worse than almost worse than the mafia, but it's that sort of mentality, you know.
Where
There's
many
another expertise.
gravitate to.
Corey's
What's
got
that?
that expertise too.
Exactly. I was just going to say that they go hand in hand, those two areas, because one requires ruthlessness.
Yeah,
Yeah, and narcissism, as we know it, is definitely a lack of the ability to. It's not about no empathy. That's
Hmm.
a misnomer. They say, oh, narcissism is about not having empathy. They certainly do have empathy, but it's cognitive empathy. It's the way a car salesman will read you. It's almost predatory,
Mm,
predacious.
mm.
Yeah, that kind of empathy. Fascinating
Mm.
topic.
is
Mm-hmm.
that empathy or study of body language?
Exactly. So calling it empathy is not as an empathic, it's more about understanding what they study cues and body language, and they're
Yeah.
experts at it because they lack the fundamental. My interpretation of it is the high vibration frequencies. They can't
Yeah.
manifest those, so they stay in low vibration, but they
Yeah.
can have eerily predatory ability to mimic other people's emotions and behaviors. There's a
Yeah.
real interesting movie with Nicole Kidman, and I can't remember the name of it, but you'll remember it. It came out in the 80s. And she's walking along the street, and there's a car accident, and this 5-year-old child is flung from the car and dies on the pavement. And the mother goes over and, is going through all of the expressions of grief and tragedy.
Yeah.
And the Nicole Kidman character is actually a narcissist. And so she is watching the mother's expressions, and then she goes home and practices them in the mirror.
Oh,
So it's very, it's
Yeah.
really interesting because when that movie came out, this concept was not known the way it is now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's an interesting one. Yeah. I'm just recalling there's so many behaviors I've seen similar to that, what they do and how they do it. It's freaky.
and
Biggest
and
one.
so, are these?
Yeah.
I'm looking for what would be my advice be to Corrine. It was funny that Corey and Corey got together today, but Corrine is my friend, and I asked her, well, are you praying? And she is spiritual, and is that even enough? What is the, Chris, you've already mentioned that, sometimes you have to remove yourself from the situation.
Yes.
And she's got 3 kids in school, and she owns, she's been paying down a mortgage on the house.
Yep.
And so that's a pretty, I mean, in what, I guess what I'm asking is, okay, this is all part of God's plan. What the hell's going down? Like, and it's sort of like a big lesson in the whole planet. We're all learning to, some of us, thank God, not as badly as others. But part of me is a little bit, I don't know if I feel comfortable with the idea that, oh, well, this is your karma.
Well,
this is it's coming down.
I definitely feel like that's part of it. And because, in the Buddhist teachings, they say anything that you're experiencing from somebody, you have done to somebody else in a previous life. So, I mean, I feel like that there's a few components to this. Firstly is, I guess removing yourself or getting the space that you need to be able to have the compassion to see why and where those people are at, to be able to then make change in the world, I suppose. That's really, for me, what I feel like I've learned from Buddhism is just that, every being is suffering, every being. And like, it's your responsibility to take yourself out of suffering or like work on alleviating suffering. And then once you're then alleviated from that, it's then your job to then help others. And I feel like that sometimes with this narcissist empath kind of dynamic thing that we've got going on, there's still a separation element of them versus us. And we're trying to, like, I'm not saying that like not running or not leaving the situation isn't important. I've done that for narcissists before. I had to physically get myself out of space so that I could breathe and then look at it from a different perspective. But there's many layers. There is many layers, but still just not trying to like keep that the separation as well. That's kind of what I'm feeling
Mhm.
with this.
Yeah.
We
wow.
have to take responsibility for ourselves.
Some of the stuff that I've looked at with it is with narcissists, it helps from my perspective to be able to call their behavior for what it is. The ones that I've dealt with when I'm assisting in relationship issues, they know they can't do bullshit with me. So we do talk about it, but they tend to try and talk about it as a manipulative process to try and get you to do it their way. And I just call that, I just keep calling it.
You just say no. Yeah.
But it doesn't stop them doing it with everybody else.
Mhm.
What they can do, I haven't struck it, but I've heard of it where, because I'm trying to help the person, they can turn on somebody who was in that assistant position as well, and then try and destroy their life and credibility. So you'll stop helping their partner. Yeah, but
Mm.
once again, if you can keep calling the behavior and keep throwing it out there, I tend to find some point they give up.
Mhm.
But when I do it right from start, they don't usually try and involve me in the game in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah. I feel like that this is why, Corey, your work is so important, because I mean, it's not just for women. I've seen it for men as well, that give so much and end up being in the in not the victim category, but like in the
Abused.
yeah, abused category as well. Is that like what the only thing that we can do is empower those to be able to find that strength within themselves. And that's what I love about your work, Corey, is like that it's all whole totally driven on empowering women to be able to stand in their strength and to be able to make the right choices, to be able to look back eventually with compassion. And I think that, like, if anything I've learned is that, like, the more strength that I feel inside of myself, the easier it is to just see the behavior and then not interact with it. So you just walk away from it. You don't even engage, and you're able to even like communicate it in a way that may or may not be receivable to the narcissist, but like you just don't you're not as easily manipulated into it. So yeah, I mean, I in terms of looking for solutions, I think that we're doing okay, right?
Yeah. You've got multiple bits and pieces. God, I'm trying to think how much to throw in. On a spiritual point, the bit that I look at, it's an example of extreme disconnection. If we look on the consciousness chart, it's heading away from that light. It's that arrow that I call, I've got evil written on it, which is just life spelt backwards.
Mhm.
They've got things backwards. Instead of going into connection, they've got into disconnection. I hold in mind, and correct me if I'm out on this, Jeff, the principle that I've understood is narcissists are created, they're not born. And from what
Yeah,
I can,
I
yeah,
wouldn't know whether that's true. In Corinne's case, she thinks that her husband's mother is a narcissist. And so he would have learned from patterning.
yeah, often that can be part of it's passed on from one narcissist to another.
But
Or
like,
something
if you think
happens.
about it from life to life, though, if you're living a life with a mind that is narcissistic, you're
Yep.
only going to take that into the next life. Yes, so perhaps you
Yeah.
can be born also as a narcissist.
It could be seen that way. Yeah. Usually what I find is the person will repeat the situation that created in the previous life, so they've got something practical they can deal with. sometimes you'll get people that bring stuff from other lives, which we know because we've played with that. It's not very often I've seen them bring it through without a repeat causal event in this life. But I usually find if people are bringing stuff from past life, they've got a level of advancement that they can look at it, go back and look at that and be able to do something about it. But that's just my perspective. I'm trying to get, carry on.
Something that I am hearing is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but Corey, it sounds like you need help. It sounds like you're inundated with people, and you need help, like more people that are there to like firstly support you, but also just to like be on your team. Is that what I'm understanding?
I would say that's probably one of the most intuitive things I've heard all week. Yes, because you've actually framed it in a way that I recognize it going, she's absolutely right. And I hadn't realized that yet.
Oh,
So,
amazing.
that.
Okay. So that was the kind of the first thing that I thought when I jumped on the call. In my Vipassana retreat that I just did, I had a few ideas that came through. And one of those ideas is firstly helping Christopher create a website so that he's got a platform for being able to be connected to. And on that is like kind of like a directory almost of like different people to connect with. And I thought that something that we could do to help you is to like get our websites, up and flowing, and then so that when I don't know how people normally find you, but like that you can then kind of like make a page of like the team, I suppose.
Yeah.
And then there's like, a team of, maybe me, you, Charlotte, Christopher. There's a team of us that can start helping you out a little bit with your work, because it feels like that you've got too much to, and also that that you're trying to do it alone. And like that's why these conversations are really good, because you have a space to also just share like, oh my god, this is what's happened this week.
Yeah. So two things to that. One is I'm not alone. The universe has provided me with the most incredible being whose skills and talents completely are outside of my own. So we mesh together perfectly. And she has a background in marketing, IT, and journalism. And so Lori, I think she may have been on by voice one day. Emily, did you meet with her?
I don't think so.
No. Okay. Anyway, brilliant. And she has made things possible. Whereas before I was very much, ideas would just keep coming in and I'd spill them onto paper or onto recordings, but didn't have the capacity to be able to operationalize it other than going out and doing, one-on-one presentations or speaking engagements.
Mm-hmm.
All that to say is things are really starting to happen, and I appreciate what you're saying, and I can envision that we will be able to do some work together to broaden the program or delve into it to make it more. I want to be able to reach more people, and I haven't put any thought as to what the remuneration is going to be, and it hasn't even been important at this point, other than I have to pay Lori. So looking at ways to have people join, learning things, having videos of elders and people from Indigenous culture giving lessons. So the ones that we're going to be using in Manitoulin will be very specific to that area. And then when we go somewhere else in Canada, we'd need elders from that specific area in order to improve their wisdom. And so doing these both locally, but also incorporating the Indigenous teachings, helping these women find their voices. I know I spoke about this before because the whole concept of whisper is born out of my own experience of trying to whistle blow. And when I
Mm.
stood up to talk about what was going on, I was completely discredited, shut down, silenced, criticized, humiliated. So when I started seeing this consistently across all genres and all areas, that whistleblowers or even
Mhm.
people just wanting to speak the truth were being stopped. So I realized that whispering isn't yelling. We're not, because when we go and protest and make a lot of noise, like we had our trucker convoy, all kinds of trouble ends up coming out of that, where people are making allegations. Like that trucker convoy was incredible. It's the best thing that ever happened to this country. And yet it was portrayed by our own media as being a debilitating, horrific, like just chaos. And it wasn't at all. It was the antithesis of
It
that.
was the most loving thing. I was in tears so often. They had video of the overpasses, like all across Canada, people coming out of their communities in the middle of the coldest winter ever and bringing food to the truckers at the truck stops, and like the community outpouring of love. And then like when it was when they all descended into our capital in Ottawa, and they brought like what are those, like little kids jumping castles, they brought their community with them. And then so I was so I got a taste of what our future world can look like.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
From a place of love and
Yeah.
community.
And it's unstoppable.
Yeah,
One of the-
they were feeding the homeless, like they were bringing food and the homeless were being fed. They were dancing. They had the bouncy castles, as Jeff said. It was an incredible experience, and the horns were going, but that's what the media caught on to. Well, the horns were going, so therefore they're a disruption, and those poor people in that area can't sleep, and it's violent. They just made it out. Oh, and then of course they paid some of the rabble rousers to go in and cause chaos. So there was windows broken and things, some not nice things happened, but it wasn't the truckers. It was the rabble rousers that they paid. Anyway, all that to say, where were we going with that topic? We were
Well,
talking about the truckers for some reason.
You
It was kind of like around whisper and whistleblowing and that kind
Noise.
of thing.
Voice. The voices. So,
yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So that's one concept that I want
Yep.
to be really clear is how, so to address no voice, we do public speaking. And so some of the concepts they'll be teaching each other, because it's all about facilitating. Maybe they choose a spirit animal or a grandfather teaching, and now they do some homework, and now they're going to present it to the rest of us as being an exercise in effective presentation, of which I used to teach. So I can add those bits to help to address things like social anxiety, because that's all about
Yes.
not being able to read body
Well,
language from other people. And
That's so big as well since we've been in lockdowns. Like I've even been moving through my own waves of it over the last couple of years. It's just you think that you're kind of out of it, and then you get a wave again of, oh wow, it is scary being out here with people.
Yeah. So that's one of the big things I want to address through the community that we're building. And then also the somatic release of trauma. So some of the things we've already talked about, and being able to show them tiny little toolkit exercises, simple things that go through. And then teaching each session would be a form of a martial art or breath work or kickboxing or some form of exercise fitness. So they're using their bodies. Qigong, any of those, I'll incorporate something for every single session. And so that they'll get a familiarity with various types of martial arts and breath work particularly. So using Soma.
You're wanting to, what kind of platform are you wanting to do this from? Is it like all on a website, or is it all in a retreat form in person, or what is the kind of platform you're looking at?
So that's a very good question, because I'm envisioning both, and I know
Okay, cool.
how to run
so
neither.
So what you're so in terms of these conversations, are you looking for like where we can all fit into that as well, in terms of all of the platforms? Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, and wondering what's possible. As
Really?
Lori has started using whatever she's not using a platform yet, but just starting to build things to go on to some form of an online module program. And that's why we wanted to get Jeff and you and Al together as well. So
Mhm.
that because that stuff I know what I want to teach or share, but I don't know how to do it. So that's where I need
Yep.
the support like
Great.
that.
Well, I haven't even actually spoken to Christopher since I've come out of Vipassana, but that was it. He's just been told that that's a vision that I had of the website.
Thank you.
Sorry, Christopher.
That's all right. Just let me know what you need.
Yeah, we're gonna be. Well, I've got some time off over the next, like certain chunks off. So I think that's really that's my focus, or what I want to focus on, because setting up the website is pretty easy. There's really easy platforms, and we just want
I
to
love
get
it
some
when-
stuff.
Yeah.
We just want to get some stuff going so that there's some sessions that are happening, you know?
Yeah. And start recording some stuff
Yeah.
designed for specific purposes with it. And it's just something
Yeah.
that's popping into mind as you're talking. So let me know what you need. And
We can
we'll-
chat about that.
Yeah.
When I come down and pick up my car at your
Yeah.
house.
Gotta love it.
That sounds amazing. And it's all just gelling. We just, we're all creating together, and
Yeah.
we're kind of propelled into this by the situation on the planet.
Yeah.
I love the idea of creating a platform that people can come to as a resource for a set of tools.
Mhm.
And we have Glaucia in the kitchen. And I'm also, maybe we told you a little bit, but I have, from my academic world, I've created a learning system, a platform. It's called Deck Chair Learning, and it's kind of designed to teach content, especially content that requires practice, so that you can evaluate getting better at something. But I also recognize that I'm coming from a sort of a left brain logic. It's not as holistic. But my partner, a lifelong friend, spiritual buddy, and I have this system that we can talk more about later. But what it could include is something like groups of 4 getting together to discuss scenarios, and having an expert who has already evaluated or at least commented on the scenario, so that each person in the group of 4, it doesn't have to be 4, but 4 is what we're working with, would take a turn being a leader. Because sometimes you learn the most by teaching others.
Which is what Corey was saying.
Yeah. So Lori Thompson is I've met her up in Manitoulin Island. Manitoulin Island is a magical place. I'm going to come up and visit when you go up, Corey, again this summer. But the focus on this is like such a huge project that Corey needs a lot of help. And so one of the ideas is that each of us has a network of connections that we need to send out pings to. And then their life will be swelling around and swarming, and people will land in places. And so part of the very first thing we did, and we haven't gone much further, a few weeks ago, we set up a survey that Corey could send through our platform. Basically, you create an account and then go run a task. And it includes a little sidetrack to go visit one of Christopher's meditation videos. And so I'm imagining that people would have, that we could use our platform as the host for a lot of activities. But you would also have, you'd also have online Zoom events, seminars that get set up that would be run over and over again. And Corey can't be at all of them, so we need a whole bevy of leaders. And Corey shared a file in chat, and it's called Ways of Warrior Women. And so Corey and I chatted briefly earlier today, but you have an update on your grant and the problems with it.
Yeah, I'll fill that in too.
So I feel just like Emily, I want to help any way I can. And I don't know how that's going to work out, but right now I just this little discussion is like almost perfect. It's giving a little snippet that we could carve into a little movie so other people could see what's the whole vision, like what's the problem we're trying to deal with. And I'm a little behind, but one of my jobs is to carve up these videos that we've been taking into 10 or 15 minute sound, not bites, but manageable content, because people don't sit and watch 3 hours of video. At least I do, but not everyone wants to spend that much time. So Emily, that sounds, I'd love to hear more about what your vision was. And that's interesting that Chris is going to hear it for the first time. And